These are things that people are learning slowly, and I hope ultimately the Ethiopians will solve their own problems.
We're going to interrupt that programme because we have heard in the last few minutes that Buckingham Palace has confirmed that the Queen has today tested positive for COVID-19. Monarch is experiencing mild, cold-like symptoms, we are told, but expects to continue light duties at Windsor over the coming weeks. She will continue to receive medical attention and will follow all appropriate guidelines. That is just coming in to us from Buckingham Palace. So I'll just read that statement again, that the Queen has tested positive for COVID-19, says the Palace, and is experiencing mild, cold-like symptoms, but does expect to continue light duties at Windsor over the next few days and is going to continue to get medical attention and will follow all the appropriate guidelines. Let's just give you a little bit of background to that. And we knew that Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, had actually tested positive 2 days, met the Queen 2 days before testing positive. That was a few days ago. And the previous evening, he and the Duchess of Cornwall had met the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, and others at a reception at the British Museum. That was a number of days ago. The 73-year-old heir to the throne had previously caught the virus in March 2020 when he reported only mild symptoms. Let me just repeat the statement we've just had in from Buckingham Palace then, that the Queen, who is 95 years of old, has tested positive for COVID, is experiencing mild cold-like symptoms, but does expect to be carrying out light duties in the coming week. These are some recent pictures of the Queen at Windsor Castle. The royal household does have its own royal physicians. The Queen's doctors will be on hand to take care of and to monitor the Queen. And Professor Sir Hugh Thomas is head of the medical household and physician to the Queen, and he would be expected to be in charge at the moment. But we are being told, and the Palace stressing this, that the symptoms at the moment are mild, just like a cold, and that in fact the Queen will be carrying on with her duties, light duties. But of course, there will be concern that the Queen, who is 95 years of age and has the Platinum Jubilee celebrations this year for her 70 years on the throne. That was 70 years on February the 6th. She reached the extraordinary milestone of 70 years on the throne. But there will be concern, of course, that she has contracted COVID-19. Now, the Queen actually carried out her first major public engagement for more than 3 months just the other day on February the 5th, Saturday, February the 5th, the eve of her Jubilee, when she met charity workers at Sandringham and cut a celebratory cake and used a walking stick to rest on. She is understood to be triple vaccinated. She had been on doctor's orders to rest since mid-October. That was, you may remember, previous concern about her health after she cancelled a run of engagements. And she did, you might recall, spend a night in hospital. That was towards the end of last year. She spent a night in hospital undergoing preliminary tests. Then, if we just fast forward to this month, she is believed to have spent time with Prince Charles, as I mentioned, on February the 8th. And he hosted an investiture at Windsor Castle. And then a few days later, he tested positive for COVID, but he did make a very quick recovery to full health. But there was concern that, that Charles had been in proximity to the Queen when he had COVID. Let's talk to our royal correspondent, Nicholas Witchell, who can join us now on the line. And Nicholas, let's just recap for anyone who's just joining us, what that statement is from Buckingham Palace that we've just had in the last few minutes.
Yes, Buckingham Palace has confirmed that the Queen has today tested positive for COVID, but they say that she is experiencing mild cold-like symptoms and expects to continue with light duties at Windsor over the coming week. So she will continue to receive medical attention, according to Buckingham Palace, and will follow all appropriate guidelines. And I understand that there have been other COVID outbreaks within Windsor Castle, within the household, presumably. So that would explain why she has now tested positive. There were, of course, rumours just a couple of weeks ago after the Prince of Wales tested positive, and it was disclosed that he had met her at Windsor, where the Prince of Wales had been carrying out an investiture, but she clearly did not contract COVID on that occasion. We saw her a few days ago at the palace meeting two senior defence officials, one of them handing over to the other, and apart from remarking that she couldn't move, suggesting that there were still some mobility issues with her health and general well-being, clearly at that point she was not COVID positive, but this morning she has tested positive. But I think the thing to stress before everyone gets concerned about this, I think the thing to stress is that the palace is saying that these are mild cold-like symptoms, but of course in everybody's mind is the fact that she, in a matter of weeks now, will be 96 years old. But she, of course, will be receiving medical attention, and according to Buckingham Palace, she is continuing with what they describe as light duties.
And Nick, we understand, I don't know if it's ever been confirmed, that she is triple vaccinated. I mean, that is the assumption, at least.
Yes, that is the assumption, and I think it is a very safe assumption. It would be completely bizarre if she weren't. It was certainly confirmed when she had the initial vaccinations. And yes, I think we can take it as absolutely certain that she has been fully vaccinated. And so is in as resilient a position as anybody can be from a medical point of view. The concerning area, of course, is her vulnerability simply because of her age. But apart from these mobility issues, she has been in good health, though she was, of course, advised by her doctors to rest last October. But that, I think, was because of these, what everybody is sort of euphemistically referring to as mobility issues. It's certainly been suggested that she may have had a fall, but that's not been confirmed. But there was never any suggestion that the reason for the doctors advising her to rest and to undertake only light duties was in any way COVID related, and indeed that was ruled out by Buckingham Palace at the time.
She is extraordinary, isn't she? We're just looking at her pictures of her now. For a woman of 95, nearly 96, as you're saying. I mean, she is extraordinary. She started using a walking stick a little bit recently, but she always seems so vibrant, doesn't she, in her public appearances?
Yes, she does, and these pictures, I think, were taken just before that apparent change in her general well-being. I think these pictures were taken at Windsor Castle when she was meeting various entrepreneurs, and it was the following day, on October the 20th, when it was suddenly announced that she would not be going ahead with a visit to Belfast, and it was on that occasion that her doctors advised her to rest, and she was brought into hospital in central London for preliminary tests, as they were described. And ever since then, we have seen rather less of her, and she has been clearly taking life rather more easily, undertaking these light duties, but continuing with audiences with various officials, though those have been done by video link in most cases. But of course, we saw her just 2 weeks ago at the moment of the 70th anniversary of her accession over the Accession Day weekend. We saw her, of course, meeting people in the ballroom at Sandringham. And although she was, as you say, then walking with a walking stick, she was very mentally completely engaged, and people who were there at that reception said, yes, she is looking a little more frail now, but was clearly very alert. And that, I think, was the impression that everybody who has met her in recent times has formed. And indeed, she has continued on, as we saw, I mentioned a couple of days ago, meeting those officials from the Ministry of Defence. talking to them, chatting to them. But with this clearly, she's not walking as confidently as has been the case in the past. But the news this morning that she has tested positive for COVID, but I think that it is important to emphasise that according to Buckingham Palace, the symptoms that she is displaying are mild cold-like symptoms, and she will be receiving, of course, medical attention from members of the medical household.
Yeah, let's just talk briefly about the sort of medical attention she will get, because the royal household has its own royal physicians, doesn't it? I mean, just talk us through how that will work and who will be looking after her.
Yeah, well, the medical household is the array of physicians who are on call to consult and to treat, if necessary, the Queen and indeed other members, central members of the royal family. They will have been, I'm sure, keeping a very close eye on things throughout the whole period of the pandemic. Of course, for many months, she was very isolated at Windsor, this sort of bubble that was formed around her to, of course, protect her from COVID, and that was successful. This is the first occasion on which she has tested positive, that she has contracted the virus. So those precautionary measures that were taken over so many months were very effective. But at this point, of course, now the restrictions are being relaxed. And it is apparent that some members of the household at Windsor have tested positive, and the virus has spread, and spread to the extent that she has herself contracted it. But I don't sense that there is any reason for particular concern or alarm. She has tested positive, mild cold-like symptoms, but she will clearly now be observed, and the medical household, the doctors, the royal doctors, will be keeping a close eye on things and offering whatever treatment they seem and deem to be appropriate.
Nick, thank you very much indeed. That's Nicholas Witchell there, our royal correspondent.